Today we've phones, TVs, PlayStations, and a lot of other ways to keep ourselves entertained. But back in the 18th and 19th centuries, people found their amusement in very different places. One of the biggest attractions of that era was the freak show, where people with rare conditions or unusual appearances were exhibited as public curiosities. These shows turned difference into spectacle, drawing audiences eager to see what they were told were freaks of nature. In this video, we're going to look at the 15 vintage circus freaks that actually existed in real life. Number 15, the Fat Boy of Peckham. Back in the days of a less sensitive society, the traveling freak show was a popular attraction. So, when the Fat Boy of Peckham came to town, crowds quickly and unashamedly gathered outside an empty shop in the high street to see him. John was born in London on October 14th, 1898. At birth, he weighed a modest 9 pounds, but his growth soon accelerated beyond belief. By 7 months, he tipped 2 stone, and by 6 years old, he had ballooned to 14. Despite a lot of medical tests, doctors declared him healthy, baffled by his size. By age 14, weighing 26 stone, he was already touring with the electric automatic vaudeville. In Southampton, his shows ran alongside darts, billiards, and fortune-telling. People came in droves, and Trundley relished the spotlight, touring Britain and Europe. He befriended stars like Charlie Chaplin and even tried silent films. The First World War shook him. He lost weight dramatically and popularity with it. Later, he trained as a watch repairer. Ill health followed in World War II, and in 1944, he died of TB at just 46. Despite his struggles, he enjoyed his fame, using his size to craft a good career. Number 14, Peter Robinson. Peter, aka the Human Skeleton, rose to fame long before appearing in Todd Browning's 1932 cult classic Freaks. Born in Springfield, he went professional around 1895, performing at Coney Island and with Ringling Brothers. His frail figure contrasted dramatically with his wife, sideshow star Baby Bunny Smith, who weighed 467 pounds compared to his 58, a real-life Jack Sprat pairing. In 1924, they married, and by 1928, Robinson was touring vaudeville stages in a revue called A Night at Coney Island. This unusual production carried sideshow acts into mainstream theaters, a rare attempt to bridge circus and vaudeville audiences. On film, Robinson became etched into sideshow lore, forever remembered for his skeletal frame and screen presence. While his thinness seemed shocking, his professional endurance proved he was more than just a body. He was a performer, with timing, personality, and grit. Alongside Bunny, Robinson's life embodied the strange and sometimes tender contrasts that defined the sideshow world. Number 13, Celesta Guyire. Celesta became known worldwide as Dolly Dimples, the world's most beautiful fat lady. Her size grew rapidly from childhood, 150 pounds in 6th grade, 300 after high school, and over 400 soon after. In 1927, when her husband lost work, she accepted a sideshow job at Happyland Carnival. Standing just under 5 feet tall, she eventually reached 555 pounds while working with Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey. Unlike many, Dolly embraced the stage with wit and glamour, billing herself as Jolly Dolly and dazzling audiences. Her career ended in 1950 after a severe heart attack. Determined to live, she undertook a radical diet, surviving for over a year on baby food. She shed 443 pounds in record time, earning a Guinness entry for fastest female weight loss. Dolly later published a diet book advocating moderation and lived until 1982. In 2014, she was inducted into Coney Island's Sideshow Hall of Fame, her legacy larger than life. Number 12, Robert Earl Hughes. Robert Earl Hughes was born on June 4th of 1926 in Baylis, Illinois, and this guy carried the title of the heaviest man of his time. We mean he was big. His extraordinary weight was caused by a malfunctioning thyroid gland. By 6 years old, he weighed nearly 200 kilograms. At 10, his weight was already 380 kilograms. At his heaviest, he surpassed 1,040 pounds, his chest stretching an astonishing 10.3 feet in circumference. Hughes remained mobile, but slow walking required frequent rests and a cane to support his bulk. Despite limitations, he toured fairs and carnivals, drawing fascinated crowds. There were even plans for him to appear on The Ed Sullivan Show, though they never materialized. On July 10, 1958, at just 32, Hughes died of uremia following a case of measles. His coffin, often mythologized as a piano case, was in fact simply enormous. His gravestone proudly notes his record-breaking weight. For all the spectacle, Robert Hughes lived his life openly, embracing the notoriety his body brought him until the very end. Number 11. Rudy Santos. Rudy from the Philippines became known worldwide as Octoman. His condition was caused by a parasitic twin, leaving him with 4 arms, 3 legs, extra nipples, and even the partial remains of a head on his chest. He toured freak shows through the 1970s and 80s, astonishing audiences with his unusual form. But by the late 80s, weary of exploitation, he withdrew from public life. In 2008, doctors offered surgery to remove the twins' remains, but Santos refused. Poverty and a deep emotional attachment kept him from parting with what had become part of his identity. Despite physical challenges, his leg stopped at the knee, forcing him to walk with crutches. He lived longer than anyone else ever recorded with his condition. In 2023, Rudy died of a stroke at age 70, leaving behind his great niece, Emma Leftwich. His life was more than a spectacle. It was resilience. Santos didn't just live with his condition, he embraced it, fully and defiantly. Number 10. The Penguin Lady. It was Ruth Minion's unique body that made her unforgettable. She was born with phocomelia and had flipper-like arms, fused fingers, short bones, and walked with a waddle, which earned her the name the Penguin Lady. But Ruth didn't just lean into the public image, she elevated it. Wearing a 2-piece swimsuit that displayed her form, she performed with flair. Her act wasn't just a spectacle, she played the marimba, a resonant wooden percussion instrument, with great precision and musicality. Audiences praised her not for her condition, but for her skill. Ruth's talent earned her spots at the 1933 Century of Progress Expo in Chicago and the 1939-40 New York World's Fairs. Away from the stage, she lived fully. She married twice, first to Largo, with whom she had a healthy child, and later to Earl Davis, better known in circus circles as Hoppy the Frog Boy. Together, they toured for nearly a decade before retiring in the 1960s. Ruth's life was proof that talent, identity, and strength could exist far beyond public labels and judgments. Number 9. Lillian LaFrance. Aviator goggles, jodhpurs, riding boots, and a skull and crossbones jersey, Lillian dressed like danger and lived up to it. Born Agnes Mikek in 1894, the second of 9 daughters in a strict Catholic family in Kansas, she grew up dreaming of escape. By her 20s, she had renamed herself Lillian, left home, and joined a carnival. At 3, she began riding the motordrome, the dizzying wall of death. Balancing motorcycles and cars at breakneck speed, she was fearless, billing herself as the girl who flirts with death. Photos show her smiling despite broken arms, or riding no hands on a treadmill bike to lure crowds inside. She never wanted marriage or kids, saying she saw enough hardship in her mother's life. Instead, she chased freedom, carving out a career as one of the first and most famous female stunt riders. Even decades later, her legend remains. In 1998, Kim Wood honored her in a documentary aptly titled Advice for Adventurous Girls. Number 8. The Hilton Sisters. While conjoined twins were familiar in the sideshow world, none ever reached the fame of Daisy and Violet Hilton. Born in 1908 to an unmarried barmaid in the UK, the twins were handed over to Mary Hilton, the midwife who delivered them. Mary trained them relentlessly to sing, dance, and play instruments, and had them touring the circuit by age 3. For over 2 decades, Mary and her husband took every cent they earned. The twins finally broke free and sued for independence. After winning, they thrived in vaudeville, earning $5,000 a week. They appeared in the 1932 cult film Freaks, and in 1952 starred in Chained for Life, a murder trial drama involving one twin. As fame faded, they entered burlesque. By the 1960s, they were working at a grocery store in Charlotte. Their bittersweet legacy was revisited in the 2012 documentary Bound by Flesh. What they endured was unthinkable, but they didn't let people ruin their joy. Number 7. Sarah Biffin. Born in 1784 without arms or properly formed legs, Sarah Biffin never asked for pity and never needed it. Using only her mouth and shoulder muscles, she taught herself to paint, sew, and write with remarkable accuracy. Crowds gathered at fairs across Britain just to watch her work. But she wasn't a spectacle. She was a professional. Her paintings weren't admired because of her condition. They were admired because they were brilliant. Aristocrats commissioned her. Queen Victoria owned her work. Even Charles Dickens praised her, not as a disabled marvel, but as an artist. Her technical precision was unmatched. She lived independently, earned a living through skill, and carved out a life of dignity in an era where disability usually meant invisibility. Sarah Biffin demanded recognition not through sympathy, but through excellence. She built a legacy with brushstrokes, not headlines. Her life wasn't about overcoming anything. It was about owning her worth. Sarah didn't belong in the background. She was the headliner. Number 6. John and Hannah Battersby. John Battersby was a celebrated human skeleton, weighing barely 50 pounds during his career. His wife, Hannah Perkins Battersby, born 1836, stood over 6 feet tall and reportedly weighed more than 700 pounds, making her one of the heaviest women of her era. Their pairing became legendary, the real-life embodiment of Jack Sprat and his wife. Both performed for Barnum, where their romance bloomed. They married and had a daughter, Rachel, born in 1859. Together they toured, with Hannah often needing special accommodations due to her immense size. In 1873, John injured his spine, ending his career, while Hannah continued performing. Tragically, Hannah died in 1889 after falling from a stage. John, fiercely protective, guarded her body from prying photographers. Their story, steeped in circus legend, is remembered not just as a publicity stunt, but as genuine devotion. They built a life that defied expectation, proving that in the strangest of pairings, love remained the most remarkable spectacle. Number 5. Anna Swan. Anna Swan wasn't just tall, she was unforgettable. Born in 1846 in Nova Scotia, Canada, she stood over 6 feet tall by age 10 and eventually reached 7 feet 5 inches due to gigantism. Her unusual height drew attention early, and after some struggle she joined P.T. Barnum's Circus, where she quickly became one of its most admired stars. In 1865, she narrowly survived the fire that destroyed Barnum's American Museum. Still, she carried on, earning crowds not just with stature, but with grace and quiet confidence. Later, she married Martin Van Buren Bates, another giant, and their relationship became world famous. But Anna's story wasn't just about size. She was brilliant, kind, and dignified. Never once did she lean into the role of sideshow oddity. She stood proudly, unapologetically herself. Until her death in 1888, she remained a towering presence in every sense. Anna's story is one of integrity, self-respect, and strength. Number 4. Alice Elizabeth Doherty. Alice Elizabeth Doherty, often called the Werewolf Girl, was born in 1887 with hypertrichosis lanuginosa, a rare genetic condition that covered her body in a soft golden coat of hair. Her appearance sparked fascination from birth, and her family soon placed her in exhibitions where she became a quiet sensation. But Alice wasn't a performer in the usual sense. She had no act, no theatrics, just presence. She stood on stage with quiet dignity, allowing curious onlookers to see her. No tricks, no movement, just herself. Doctors studied her endlessly, though none could fully explain her condition. She was objectified, analyzed, and photographed, but never performed. She simply existed. And that existence alone challenged audiences to confront their ideas of beauty, normalcy, and difference. Despite the crowds, Alice remained composed and poised. Number 3. James Morris. James took his body to places most wouldn't dare imagine. Born in the late 1800s, he quickly discovered an unusual gift. He could contort and twist his limbs in extreme, stomach-turning ways. While other kids played outside, James looped his arms, coiled his fingers, and bent his torso like clay. That flexibility brought him to the circus, where he became a star. Audiences were stunned as he competed with contortionist Felix the Elastic Man, dislocating shoulders, tying limbs behind his back, and turning his neck until it looked impossible. Doctors believed he had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare condition marked by hyperflexibility and stretchable skin. Morris eventually joined the Ringling Brothers, leaving crowds breathless at every stop. His routine wasn't illusion. It was sheer physical discipline, using a rare condition to turn himself into living performance art. While others used props, James only needed a stage and his body. Number 2. Mr. Frank Lentini. Frank Lentini became one of the most celebrated and longest-running sideshow acts in history. His condition? A fully developed third leg, complete with bone, muscle, and movement. That alone would have made headlines. But Frank also had 2 fully functional sets of genitalia, a fact whispered behind the curtains and speculated on by fans. He rarely acknowledged it publicly, though audiences never stopped asking. He married Teresa Murray and had 4 healthy, 2-legged children. The crowd's favorite question? Frank, we know you've got 2, but which one do you use? Frank never answered. That silence became part of his legend. He wasn't just known for anatomy. He had stage presence, sharp wit, and charm that made people come back. Lentini wasn't a punchline. He was a professional and one of the highest paid in his field. He proved that even the most unimaginable bodies could hold magnetism, pride, and humor. Number 1. Pauline Musters. Pauline became a global sensation as the shortest adult woman ever recorded. Standing only 58 centimeters tall, she amazed physicians and charmed audiences across Europe and the US. But her fame wasn't just about stature. Pauline was a natural performer, quick, agile, full of life on stage. She wasn't marketed as a human oddity. She earned applause for dancing, acrobatics, and a vivacious presence that filled entire theaters. She didn't perform to be stared at. She performed to entertain. Audiences loved her, and she became the highlight of any show she joined. Sadly, in 1909, her career was cut short. At just 19, she died from pneumonia and meningitis, bringing an abrupt end to a rising star. But her legacy didn't vanish. Pauline proved that stage presence isn't about size, it's about soul. Her life was short, yes, but her impact wasn't. She left behind a legacy of light, joy, and proof that the smallest performers could leave the biggest impressions. We really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll catch you soon.